Okay, so now we are still on page 31, and we're going to look at number 4. Alright, circle the correct word. So now we're going to be using lend and borrow. We have to figure out the correct word to use between lend and borrow. Alright, so the first one is done for us. Rita lent a ladder to Amy. So this is in the past tense. Alright, so Rita was the person who gave Amy the ladder temporarily. Okay, so let's look at number 2. Amy blank, so it's either lend or borrowed a ladder from Rita. Alright, so this is the opposite of this one. So for this one we would say Amy borrowed a ladder from Rita. Alright, number 3. My friend either lent or borrowed a book from me. Alright, so if it's my friend and they're asking for the book, the direction is going in the borrowed direction. Alright, so my friend borrowed a book from me. Alright, I blank, either it's lent or borrowed a book to my friend, right? So this is the opposite of this one. So I lent a book to my friend. Alright, that's how we use lend and borrow in the past tense. Alright, so now let's look at number 5. I think we're starting to get the hang of this, but let's keep going and practice. Complete the sentences. Use lend or borrow. Okay, so for most of these it looks like we're talking about present tense. Alright, so the first one is done for us. Could you lend me some money? I want to buy a cup of coffee. Alright, so let's do this. Let's pause the video now and go ahead and complete the rest of these 2 through 4, and then we'll come back and we will go through them together, see how you did. Alright, so let's pause the video now for that. Okay, so hopefully you had some time to complete 2 through 4. Let's go through them together and see what we got. Alright, so we're using lend and borrow, and it looks like we're going to be using them in the present tense. Alright, number 2, I can't or cannot blank you my cell phone right now, it's broken. Alright, so I can't lend you my cell phone right now, it's broken. Okay, number 3, could I blank your dictionary? I forgot how to spell this word. So this is the opposite way. Could I borrow your dictionary? I forgot how to spell this word. Alright, and then number 4, do you want to blank my umbrella? It's raining outside. So do you want to borrow my umbrella? It's raining outside. Alright, so that's what I got. Hopefully you got the same. If you still have issues with this, borrow and lend, let me know and I can give you some more examples to help you to practice. Okay, let's move on. Number 6. The question is, how is Daniel going to get into his apartment? So what we need to do is listen to the conversation. Alright, and if you can scan this barcode, okay, then you can listen to the conversation, and then we can complete these complete the question. Alright, So the question is, how is Daniel going to get into his apartment? Let's pause the video, scan the barcode, and listen to the conversation between Daniel and his neighbor, and then answer the questions. All right. Check which one. Check your answers actually. All right, and then we'll come back and I will share what I had. All right. So let's pause the video now and listen to Daniel's conversation. Okay, so hopefully you had some time to listen to the conversation. So let's see what we have here. The question is, how is Daniel going to get into his apartment? All right, so the first answer is his wife is going to come home and open the door. That's not correct, right? Because he didn't even get a chance to call his wife, right? He wanted to call her to do that, but that didn't happen. Second answer is his neighbor Edgar has a copy of his keys. So the thing here is has a copy, right? So Edgar doesn't have a copy of his keys yet, right? Because Daniel hasn't given him the copy yet. He said he will give him a copy of his keys, and then Edgar will give Daniel a copy of his keys to his apartment, but that hasn't happened yet. So this is not correct either. So the last one is he's going to borrow a key from the building manager. So this one is the correct one, right? Because this is the one that actually happens during the conversation. All right. Daniel calls the building manager from Edgar's apartment and gets the and goes down and gets the key from the building manager to let himself in. All right. So this is the one that works best. All right. So that's how a conversation goes when we're talking about lend and borrow, and the difference between the two. All right. So let's go ahead and move on to lesson B. Okay, so lesson B, this is where we start to get into the actual information that we need to learn about this lesson. All right, so we are reviewing Unit 3, and we're moving on to lesson B. All right, now before we do that, let's talk about clauses and phrases, right, with because, using because. All right. Because we're going to be here for a little while talking about this. So clauses and phrases with because. So remember, a clause is a group of words containing a subject and a verb. All right? An independent clause is a simple sentence. It can stand on its own. All right? So if you remember, we talked about this before. Independent clauses, dependent clauses. Okay? Independent clauses is a simple sentence and it can stand on its own. When I give these examples, you're really not left with a question, right? It's just a statement. She is hungry, right? Statement. I am feeling well today. Statement. Okay? Simple sentence. It can stand on its own. A dependent clause cannot stand on its own. All right, it needs help, right? It needs an independent clause to help complete the sentence. All right. Dependent clauses often begin with such words as although, since, if, when, and because. All right. So this is the one we're going to focus on going forward for this unit B. Lesson B. All right, because. All right, so here's some examples. Although she is hungry, right? So this is a dependent clause. This one needs help, right? If I said although she's hungry, you would say what? Keep going, right? What's the end? What's the rest of the story? All right. Whoever is hungry, you say what? Keep going, right? Whoever's hungry, what? And then if I said, because I'm feeling well, you would say, well, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Because I'm feeling well. First, I never asked you how you're feeling. And then two, because you say, because I'm feeling well, what's the rest of the story, right? So those are examples of dependent clauses. All right. So let's look at some more. All right, let's look at how they come together. Dependent clause. Although she is hungry, comma, independent clause. She will give him some of her food. All right. So we put this together. Although she is hungry, she will give him some of her food. Okay. Dependent clause. Whatever they decide. Independent clause. I will agree to. Put them together. Whatever they decide, I will agree to. All right. So those are examples of dependent and independent clauses. All right. So let's talk about phrase. All right. A phrase is a group of words without a subject or verb component. Okay. Used as a single part of speech. So here's an example. Best friend, right? It's usually two, right? Usually phrases are two words, 2 or 3 words, right? Best friend, right? This is a phrase that acts as a noun. Not just a friend, but best friend. Needing help, right? This is a phrase that acts as an adjective. Blue, with the blue shirt, all right? So this is a four word phrase, all right? This phrase acts as an adjective. And then for 20 days. This is a 3-word phrase, and this phrase acts as an adverb. Okay, as an adverb. Okay, so now that we've reminded ourselves about clauses, phrases, clauses, independent clauses, dependent clauses, and phrases, let's look at how we use clauses and phrases with the word because. So if we turn over in our student book, right, our green book, to page 34, we'll see lesson B, clauses and phrases with because. All right. So the grammar focus is because, clauses and phrases. All right. Now let's see how they want us to use this. Use the because clause or because of phrase to give an explanation for something. Use because in a clause with a subject and a verb. Use because of, right? Because of before a noun to make a phrase. All right? Let's skip down, before we go into our examples, let's skip down to useful language. Maybe this will help us. When you read aloud, pause when you see a comma. Okay, that makes sense. When we see a comma, we stop and pause really quick, right? Because of the high ceiling, pause, and I can't reach the smoke alarm. Okay? So let's use that useful language when we're reading our examples here. So because and because of phrases, all right? Because plus a clause. Anna can't reach the smoke alarm because the ceiling is too high. Okay. because of plus the noun phrase. Anna can't reach the smoke alarm because of the high ceiling. Okay, because of the high ceiling. All right. Now this is going to be if you have problems using because or because of, this is practicing these two is going to help you a lot. All right. Anna can't reach the smoke alarm because the ceiling is too high. Okay. Anna can't reach the smoke alarm because of the high ceiling. Okay. One is because plus the clause. The other one is because of plus a noun phrase. Okay. Notice clauses, independent, dependent, right? The ceiling is too high. That's our clause. Okay. Phrases, one or two words, sometimes, I'm sorry, 2 or 3 words, sometimes 4, right? But they're very short. All right. No subject verb, right? Combination. So the high ceiling. That's our phrase. Okay. Let's look at the second example here. Because, so we start out the sentence with because the ceiling is too high, comma, Anna can't reach the smoke alarm. So let's look at this again. Because the ceiling is too high, Anna can't reach the smoke alarm. Let's look at the because of noun phrase. Because of the high ceiling, Anna can't reach the smoke alarm. All right. So if you need some more help, you can always scan this barcode and watch a small video about how to use because clauses and because of phrases. All right. We're going to move ahead and start some practice. All right. So if we look in our workbook, all right, the white book, we can look on page, let's see here, 32, right? And now we can start working on answering some questions here and practicing. All right. So let's jump into that. Okay. So clauses and phrases with because. You can always study the explanation on page 132. So if you want to take some time to pause the video and keep looking up examples about because and because of, you can turn to the back of the book on page 132 for the reference. All right. But we're going to keep going on, and we'll answer this question here in number 1. So we're going to make sentences. Match the sentence parts. All right. So number 1 is done for us. Stan borrowed some money, C, because he wants to buy a car. All right. Stan borrowed some money because he wants to buy a car. Okay, makes sense. All right, so let's pause the video now and answer 2 through 5, and then we'll come back and we'll go through these together to see how you did. All right, so let's pause the video now and go through 2 through 5. Okay, so hopefully you had some time to pause the video and work on 2 through 5. Let's go through them together and see how you did. All right. Dan travels a lot. I chose A, because of his job. Because of his job. All right. Number 3, Alfredo and Maria were late. I chose E, because of a flat tire. because of a flat tire. All right. Number 4, Dolores studied for 3 hours. I chose B because she had a big test. All right. Dolores studied for 3 hours because she had a big test. And then number 5, the last one. Tran called the building manager. I chose D because D because his window was broken. Okay, Tran called the building manager because his window was broken. All right, so those are the ones that I got. Hopefully you got the same. So remember, just keep practicing the use of because and because of. All right, they can be a little confusing, but we're going to keep practicing and keep going in our book. All right. So let's continue on.